Dear ones, the vibration of love is the most supreme, highest, and powerful. It is a frequency that collapses time. The way you feel about yourself is what other people are picking up on.
How do we raise the energetic standard of what is possible in our life?
So reality itself is infinite. Every possible variation of creation that we can fathom, it does exist as an energetic potentiality, but the timelines that we can activate depends on our level of consciousness, our vibration, our beliefs.
Can someone completely change their destiny?
When we're plugged into the operating system that has to do with abundance, it's very easy to make a different choice that would then quantum leap us out of the timeline loop. But when we are plugged into the fear matrix, the lack matrix, it's very difficult to make the higher dimensional choice. Everything that you have ever desired is simply energy outwardly expressed in tangible form, but in its true raw energetic nature, it is simply a current of vibration.
Erin Lyons, welcome back on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about globally and in your life?
Globally, I'm really excited about the Great Split, but it's not what we think it is, and I'm feeling some of that transmission wanting to come through, and so I'm excited about that. Personally, I'm excited to not be pregnant this year and get a chance to do a ton of traveling. I have a really huge Stargate Mount Shasta retreat coming up in June. That's going to be huge, and so many other grid work vortexes that are calling me. So yeah, that's what's calibrating in the field.
Beautiful. And you're not pregnant again yet. So we'll just leave that in a book. You always have to say yet. You can't just say that statement.
I'm trying to keep that at bay. I'm like, I need at least 1 year of just, being able to
let her breathe. Let her breathe.
Yeah, seriously.
Talking about, you opened up with the Great Split. There's this transmission that came through in one of your videos on your YouTube channel that said that humanity is in a timeline loop, where essentially it's as if we're in a way frozen in time. And I'm wondering if this timeline loop refers to us repeating certain things and certain cycles, and how do we get out of a timeline loop?
So the universe is always going to present us with two options, being evolve or repeat. And because the density here has been so layered and so thick, many souls have been struggling with the evolution, because evolution also requires embodiment. So the embodiment necessary, the energetic blueprint necessary to make high vibrational choices and decisions. And when I really look at this energetically, like the truest essence of it, it comes down to the operating system. When we're plugged into the operating system that has to do with abundance, it's very easy to make a different choice that would then quantum leap us out of the timeline loop. But when we are plugged into the fear matrix, the lack matrix, it's very difficult to make the higher dimensional choice, or to release a job, or to release a relationship, or to change the way we eat, change the way we see the world, because that fear program says it's not safe for me to release this yet. It's lack. And so lack, I love how this is coming through. Lack creates the loop. So being frozen in time really just because time is an illusion, it's really just that you continue to recycle through timelines and parallel realities that look the same, that feel the same energetically.
Yeah. And speaking about lack, it's very interesting because one person may be in this frequency of abundance, and sometimes they might still be surrounded by energies of lack, not because they're resonating at that level, but because it's, family members or friends from a past life, in terms of, a different version of us. But there's this teaching that came through from our friend Shaman Durek that was, I do not co-validate anybody's lack.
Yes. Yes.
What does that mean?
When we're surrounded by family members and friends who are still plugged into that other matrix I'm talking about, the fear matrix, the lack matrix, if we get sucked into that, we will co-validate or essentially energetically support the belief that they're holding, as opposed to becoming the dominant vibration. So what happens is, when you are fully anchored into the abundance operating system, which is also that you recognize you're a quantum being and you can always shift, that to me is the true definition of abundance. When you're operating by that principle, when someone's entertaining lack in any type of way, you don't support it, or you don't even feel pressured to support it. You speak highly of them. You speak highly of the infinite possibilities and solutions available to them, and thus you start to help them shift. What I find is, especially with family, it can be challenging for us to hold that dominant frequency and sort of gently call them to raise their vibration and to expand their awareness. It's so easy to collapse back into the old identity. I know if I'm around certain family members or back in environments from my past, I found myself falling into conversations about, let's say, the government or prices, or whereas when I'm in my little bubble in my timeline, I'm not doing that. But there's something about this past energy, and it really takes time to practice being the ascended master in the room. This is what Source is calling it. Dear ones, you are all calibrating to becoming ascended masters. And as an ascended master, you are so anchored in the fifth dimensional frequency and beyond. So much so that even when you are co-creating with those who are not fully there yet, you don't budge, you don't move. You only see the light within them and their situation. You only expand them into the possibility of healing and abundance and love and fun and prosperity. And that's the blueprint that is being activated for humanity.
Are there any downsides to being in that bubble that we sometimes surround ourselves? Not even, just in the physical, but also maybe on social media. It's the posts that we're seeing, the people that we follow. What are the downsides of that bubble, if there are any?
I had an experience about 1.5 years ago now. I went on a television show. So one of my clients, she went on 90 Day Fiance, and she invited me on as sort of like her friend, but also I did a channeled couples reading. And the feedback that the masses gave, because at the same time I became the first person to channel light language on that show. And I mean, not even on that show, but within the history of mainstream TV, I overnight became the first person to channel light language and talk about channeling ETs on such a mainstream platform. And so when I was looking at all of the feedback, it really expanded me outside of my bubble in a sense of, you know what? 97% of the world still has no clue what's going on in this other fifth dimensional matrix and grid. And it actually inspired me because it showed me why this work is so important. And I even sent out a mass email about, you might think Erin Lyons has it covered, or Emilio Ortiz, or whoever else has it covered. You see us posting content and sharing things, and it's the reality of what the mass vibration is that so many are still unaware. So many are awakening or getting ready to awaken. So yes, I think the living in a bubble, I think it can begin to feel like, oh, everybody's awake, because in your individual reality, they are. But in the mass scope of why we have been seeded and planted here, there's still a larger part of the planetary consciousness that still needs extreme support in this ascension process.
Talk to me about the courage or the version of you required to be able to get on television and channel light language and talk about aliens? How was that experience like for you? You know, also for people that are stepping into their own voice and sharing these things on a public level, what did you have to go through to reach that point?
You know, I talk about this frequency of devotion a lot within my private practice. And devotion is not that you won't have instances of fear or anxiety even. It's that the mission activated within your heart is louder and stronger. And so doing this work for 4 years now, I'm fully aware that everybody's not ready to receive it. But how this certain universal wisdom has shifted me and my life and the people who have been willing and open to receive it, that is now an undeniable truth. And that for me is above any temporary ego insecurities or ego chatter. And so when the heart is leading, the mind will follow. And that is what has allowed me to continue moving through experiences of rejection and trusting that this vibration of love, that's really what it is. This undeniable frequency of love that source and my guides in the universe has imparted on me. It has just touched me so deeply that is now the only real truth for me. And that is the vibration from which I must move. Even when the ego mind comes in, it's like, settle down. The absolute truth is love. So being led by love.
That's powerful. And, you know, some time ago, Source downloaded into you this frequency of readiness, where essentially what came through was, I don't need the details to declare the decision. And, you know, you couldn't have predicted that, you know, that decision that you made to go and operate from the heart was going to lead you, you know, to what you're doing now. But what is it about not needing to know the details in order to still feel ready for the next level?
Dear ones, the vibration of love is the most supreme, highest, and powerful. It is a frequency that collapses time. It is a frequency that allows you to bypass any of the obstacles, challenges, or distortion that your mind is trying to calculate before you take the action. So what Source is bringing through here is, when you're operating on this frequency of love, the vibration of love will actually cleanse the field and collapse all of the probable timelines and parallel realities of distortion or just low vibrational aspects. And that's why you don't need to know the details, because the frequency of the love is the parallel frequency of your highest timeline. So if I were to ask you, describe your highest timeline, the vibrational essence of that would be love. I love the work I do. I love how much money I'm making. I love the person I'm in a relationship with. I love where I live. It's all just love. So when you make a decision based on love, it collapses time and it just takes you to the timeline that is energetically, that holds the energetic blueprint of love. So it doesn't require thinking. It just requires feeling and moving in harmonic rhythm with that feeling.
Yeah. Source said there, collapsing time. And I'm wondering for you, Erin, when was the last time that you sped up or slowed down time? Because we know it's very malleable when we're working in these fields and shifting timelines. When was the last time something like that happened to you?
I'll tell you of a story. I spent my 29th birthday in Tulum, and I had a group of friends come, a pretty big group. It ended up being about 15 of us. And one of the days we were like out to lunch, and then me and one of my friends, we spotted some shaman or something of that nature who was on the beach, and he had like a medicine circle, and he was just singing, and there was a fire going, and we just felt so guided to go. So we go, but as we're sitting there, it's like I could feel the energy of the group ready to go to the next place. And so Source drops in and they go, shift into your I am state of awareness where you are everything now. You become the I am. You become every background character in this personal movie you're experiencing. So I do that. I settle into the I am. I'm fully present with the experience that I want to have with this shaman, this medicine man. And I collapse time. It's as if time stood still. And once we were complete and I walked back over to the group, they go, it's like we were in a holding pattern, because a part of me, I was almost expecting them to be gone. And I kind of made peace with that too. Like this, for whatever reason, I need to be right here. And I'm okay if I'll catch up with them. But when I met back up with them, they were still there, and they go, it's like we were in a holding pattern. We could not move. Nobody could figure out the next step. So using this as an example, something that I've experienced where I went into the quantum field and I chose the timeline where my desire, my needs were met in that moment. And the versions of those people shifted to the versions of them that I needed for what I decided that I wanted to create in that moment.
Mm. Who are the background characters?
Okay, we'll explain it this way. All of you are infinitely co-creating with your other selves. They are you in disguise. When you begin to see them as background characters, you will be able to co-create with parallel versions of them at will. We'll give you an example. Let's say you are in a relationship and your partner is giving you some trouble, which is really a good thing because they're activating you, they're expanding you, they're triggering you into alignment if you use this relationship technology in this way. If you say, I really dislike what they're doing, or they're making me so frustrated and angry, and I don't like that they do this, and I don't like that they do that, you will keep that version of them activated. That will be the version of them that you co-create with as a background character in your game. If you begin to vibrationally shift, to see them in a higher light, to see them differently, even if you begin using language that can bridge timelines, such as, I don't understand why this is being reflected. However, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to grow. I'm willing to understand what is influencing their actions, their choices, and their behaviors. We promise you, they will begin to incrementally shift through alternate versions and expressions of them. They will meet you in the consciousness and the dimension from which you are operating. So we have infinite versions of ourselves and other people that we're always co-creating with.
You said a language that bridges timelines. And yes. I'm really curious there. That opened up a whole new avenue of the conversation about the origins of language itself. Mm-hmm. And if language was created in a sense for us to learn how to operate better through time, space. What are your thoughts on that?
The language that has presented itself as the dominant language at this time, which would be English, is a direct vibrational match to the level of consciousness. And there are some words in the English language that create timeline loops or get you to use energetic law against yourself. So when you say things like that is bad or that is wrong, this is where the terminology curse words came from. Curse words were not seen as necessarily profanity, but words that create spells that bind you in a timeline, which is a repetitive loop of something that is undesirable. Something that Source gave me was they asked me to teach my son biblical Aramaic, something about the planetary work that he's here to do, that it would activate and open specific neural pathways needed for him to fully embody his ascended master's template. And it really expanded me into understanding how important language is with how our brain operates, even.
Yeah, I would really recommend people to watch this movie, Their Arrival, when, there's a huge mothership that lands on Earth. I'm not going to give it away, but the ending is pretty interesting because when they learn how to harness language, the ET's language, they're able to travel through time. It was very interesting. And you brought up your son, teaching him Aramaic. That's wild.
I know. I go, wow. I don't even know where to start with that.
Because that also brings up the point of the children that are coming onto the planet right now and the work that they're here to carry out, the next generation.
Absolutely.
And I also heard that you were beginning to start telepathically communicating with your son through images that you would exchange through the mind. And that's something that's coming up a lot for the collective, like through the telepathy tapes and other shows like that of children that are able to do this. Are we learning as a collective how to communicate in a different way?
Absolutely. What my son has been teaching me is the power of presence. We are so distracted by tablets, laptops, phones. It's a continual stimulation that we've become unconsciously addicted to. And all of those technologies also emit signals and frequencies that can sort of disconnect us from the organic technology, which would be telepathy, because we are electromagnetic beings who are always generating a signal. So he's been teaching me how to block out those frequencies, really sit in the seat of the heart in deep, deep presence, and thus share a telepathic communication.
With that said, what is the next evolutionary leap that humanity is going through?
Dear souls, you're all remembering that everything you have ever desired, you already have. You already hold as its true, formless, energetic potential. Everything that you have ever desired is simply energy outwardly expressed in tangible form. But in its true, raw, energetic nature, it is simply a current of vibration. That is what makes you infinitely abundant.
What's the most misunderstood thing about being abundant?
That it's associated with a particular thing, person, place, or object, whereas it's a state of being. That state of being, I can always shift where I would like to shift within the time-space continuum. So the abundance is not attached to the linearity or the specifics of anything. The abundance is the ability to travel through time, space, reality, infinite parallel frames within existence. And we're already doing it. It's already built into the design. We're doing it every millisecond. But the conscious awareness, I can connect into my I am awareness and consciously decide where I shift to next. Now, at the basic level, we're just doing this at a basic level, but this will expand into more abilities such as bilocation and trilocation, where you can experience yourself as being in multiple places at once. As we begin to strengthen our knowingness of the quantum self, we can shift faster. We can access parallel realities of humanity where there has been destruction and chaos. We can communicate with those parts. We can simultaneously access the future. We can communicate with those parts. I have a future version of me. I'll say maybe 50 years out. I'll put it that way. That communicates with me. And she's always talking about how she's already on New Earth. And she will give me pieces of the breadcrumbs to help me continue to integrate with the versions of me that are shifting to all of these frames of New Earth, leading up to this timeline 50 years out.
What else has she whispered to you about around New Earth, and what are the qualities that New Earth really is prevalent at that time, 50 years into the future?
One of the dominant themes is the dismantling of government completely in the way that we know it. In this parallel version of Earth, there's a completely new governmental system, and beings such as myself are operating through some sort of council that governs the planet. So the power has shifted into the hands of those whom are more conscious. There's definitely some colonization on other planets beginning to happen. And by this point, ET contact has been fully solidified.
How did the ET contact shift the way that we operate as humanity?
Well, what happens is, for those who are choosing to experience that version of Earth, they will have shifted to that parallel version of Earth and chosen that was the dominant desire. So saying this to say it's more seamless and more gentle than what we may be imagining right now, because it seems like such a jolt. It seems like such a big occurrence. But we would like you all to remember that you are just infinitely shifting. So when the soul is ready, and there are contracts in place in terms of how we need to experience this, the pace at which we need to experience this, why you may be on a certain timeline for a length of time, because there's some planetary activation or bridging of frequency you're doing as a light worker, as a starseed. However, as you continue to shift, you are just accessing versions of Earth where all of the souls have already chosen that they're in alignment and harmonic agreement with that co-creation. So it happens more gentle. It just works itself into play. Sources provided me with this example. Think about your beautiful, expansive podcast. Is this not New Earth media? Is this not New Earth entertainment? Are traditional TV outlets not receiving the same amount of visibility that they did in the past, right? They're not. So it wasn't a jolt. It wasn't a unsettling transition. It happened gently, incrementally, in a way that was also compatible with what the human collective was ready for, which is why your podcasts have now become main media entertainment. So it happens like that.
Yeah, I can imagine it's not like a group of beings in white robes that come down and ask us
down
with a contract. Are you ready to go into New Earth? And we sign yes, or I'm good, I'll stay here. Like, it definitely feels like it's a seamless transition where, it's not like we make a choice one day. Are we shifting into this beautiful golden age, or are we staying in destruction and chaos? I feel like as we create those decisions on a day-to-day basis and uplift our vibration, that's what the earth will mirror to us. It's not like the earth, or from what I've received, it's not changing. It's actually, we are co-creating this new earth together. And it's beautiful that you brought up media, because I feel that's very tied to my mission, but also education. And I would love to get a peek into education, in that New Earth timeline, and how beings and people are educating themselves in a different way than what we've had for the last few centuries. Hello, beautiful family. Quick one today. I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you that have subscribed to this channel. Your subscription means more than you know. Even though it's free, what you're doing is you're empowering a whole channel to be able to do this every single day and continue showing up in the way that we can with all of our resources on hand. Thank you for contributing to the growth of this channel, for sharing it with the people that you love, for creating a conscious movement of individuals that are seeking the sovereignty and the divinity of their soul. This is why we're here. And if you haven't already and you're enjoying this content, I invite you now to look below on that little button that says subscribe and welcome you properly to this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are and being pure love and radiating that with everyone that you see. Back to the episode.
The education system has also been dismantled in the way that we know it by this point. And just the vision that this future self of mine is projecting to me is, it looks like from an early age, children are encouraged. Ooh, interesting. One, we will begin using auric field evaluation, meaning based on your aura from the point you are born, we can determine what it will let us know so much information about what career paths, we're not calling it career paths at this point, but which career paths are most compatible and harmonious with the blueprint, the vibrational blueprint that you are born. So there's a more soul choosing and cohesiveness. So no one feels forced to do anything based on the premise of they just want to create some money. It's based on what is truly in alignment with your heart, what is truly in alignment with the natural organic skills you are born with. And then those are cultivated and developed, and then you will contribute to society in the way that is most aligned with you, which ultimately leads to a higher functioning, sustainable world, because everyone is doing their passion. So if you are someone who wants to be an artist or creative, or if you want to do science and engineering or space travel or these different things the emphasis here is that at a very young age, we will be able to get more insight. So the need, because there's been a need at the human consciousness level to experience maybe some confusion and some time before you stumble into the purpose. We will have quantum leaped and expanded beyond the contract to need to operate in that specific way. That's what I'm being shown.
What would be the relevance, or I guess irrelevance, of money at that point if everyone is operating from this soul desire, soul purpose?
There's a higher vibrational form of currency just representing energetic exchange. So it's not that at this particular point, 50 years out, that currency will not be needed, because there are so many things that you all need to exchange with yourselves. But there will also, okay, interesting. I'm hearing this as you are expanding as a civilization and species from planetary consciousness, just seeing yourself as a planetary citizen, to seeing yourself as a galactic citizen, and you will begin being integrated in galactic trade. They're calling this galactic economics. So galactic economics.
I would have loved to take that class in college.
How do we trade with another group of beings? How do we do that? Is it through resources? Is it how? interesting. There's a certain crypto coin that I'm seeing and that I'm hearing, and there's a reason why it's called what it's called, but they won't allow me to say it because we're not trying to impact the markets in any way.
Not anymore. We're good.
That shifts some timelines and some things, right? Within your economies. But we'll say this. One of the largest crypto coins right now has a certain name, and the vibration of that name is very in alignment with this galactic economy that we speak of. So you guys can do your research.
What about music? I don't know why that's coming up to the surface, but I feel like music is something that is going to be a big part of the future and New Earth in specific.
You would have shift from, let me rephrase that. We would have shifted from using music merely as a form of entertainment and passing of free time. There's some musical mathematics. And now I'm seeing some Arcturian beings, and they're showing me Mozart and Chopin and some of the amazing musical classical geniuses in that regard. It is a technology, and there's a mathematics to it that we will begin to unlock. The Fibonacci sequence of creation is built into mathematics and music. They are one and the same.
Now we're getting deep.
Yes.
I'll ask you how all of that connects with the ancient stargates and structures that we have left over from other civilizations, like the pyramids, like Machu Picchu, different, other things that are ancient but maybe still active.
Before you said that, I got a vision of a pyramid, and I was going to go there. So we are telepathically synced within a unified field right now. So the Fibonacci mathematics also correlating to the sound of sacred geometry. So when we talk about the divine mathematics of music, it's the sound geometry that was used to build the pyramids, to shift structure into crystalline, organized prisms, essentially, that served as landing pads for UFOs and different craft, but also charging bases and regenerative energy. What we're eventually going to discover is how crystal technology works with the pyramids and why they are on specific ley lines and energetic grid points. So sound and mathematics, to answer your question, advanced sound technology and mathematics were used to formulate those structures.
You've said that there's not enough information about stargates. So I'm wondering what you would like to bring to the surface at this time that would give us a better understanding of what those are.
Sure. So you have natural stargates, interdimensional portals, but you also have created stargates. I will give my experience with both. In working with a created stargate, 4 years of my life was collapsed within a couple of days. And what I can tell you is there was this sense of knowing I don't know, or I can't predict what timeline I'm even going to be on coming out of this Stargate. Okay, so what the Stargate technology wants to channel itself and bring through is it scans your vibration, it scans your contracts, it scans where you are and the optimal decisions that you need to make to get on the highest timeline. Highest timeline meaning the one that you can sustain and hold. And as that's happening, you are being recalibrated and timelines are collapsing, probabilities are shifting. So if anyone ever experiences this, You just have to sit in the recalibration. And in my experience, this is such powerful technology that even 3 months out, you're still not fully anchored in a timeline, meaning everything is extremely quantum. You things are collapsing every single day. So as you can imagine, it's not really sustainable. It's not something that you need to do all the time or a lot. Now, this other version of Stargates is you can work with a natural vortex or portal, such as going to Sedona or Machu Picchu, or there's so many different just natural planetary grids. And these vortexes have the ability to also shift you to an alternate timeline, bring up some things that you need to take a look at. I would say it's more gentle than Stargate technology that's been created, in my experience.
You said that there's natural Stargates and created Stargates.
Yes.
In specific about the created ones, what did the creators of those understand about reality that even made them have the desire to build those in the first place?
I feel the beings coming to the field that built the specific created Stargate that I was guided to. They're saying to serve the purpose in which I used it, which was to get the hell off of the wrong timeline. where you're in a loop of something, you can't make a decision, and they're being so gentle and compassionate with us as humans, and they're saying reasonably so. You know, how the mind works in our state of evolution, I mean, it can really weigh us down, and we experience emotions in a different way that some of these other beings experience, right? We're very sensitive to feelings, and that can delay our decision-making process, or something, a person that we need to release, or something that we need to let go of. We have vibrationally expanded beyond. And so they're saying this technology works to really jolt someone, or it doesn't just have to be a person. They're kind of showing me even like situational, more collective, co-creative things, but to really collapse time and get crystal clear on where you need to go, and thus shift to where you need to go.
Because you said the highest timeline that you can sustain and hold.
Correct.
So what are the factors that influence what we can sustain and what we can hold going forward into future timelines?
So reality itself is infinite. Every possible variation of creation that we can fathom, it does exist as an energetic potentiality, but the timelines that we can activate depends on our level of consciousness, our vibration, our beliefs, and if we can hold it. So for an example, let's say you and I have, hint, hint, you and I have parallel selves that are billionaires. And just because that exists right now, simultaneously as a frame, side by side with who we are right now, just because it exists doesn't mean we can access it yet, because there are many shifts and integrations and lessons and things that will take place that will trigger you into that version that can hold that reality, relating to that reality within timelessness in a way that it makes sense, that it fits into the unfolding of the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, to get even to that parallel timeline where we're both billionaires, we would need a lot more people to press that subscribe button on our channels.
Absolutely. So many things, in between this version of us and that version of us. And it's also not to be rushed. That's the fun part, is that it's okay. I know oftentimes when we talk about collapsing time, it's like, I just want to get there. I just want to get there. Okay. But you don't want to miss out on the journey. It doesn't mean that the journey between now and there has to be unfulfilling. No, you can have the time. Oh, I love this. I can have the time of my life on the way to $1 billion, $1 billion. I can have the most amazing experience on my way to even more expansive.
Yeah. Because you've also said that when we have a new desire, that creates or activates a new timeline. So maybe, 5 seconds ago, I didn't even have a desire to $1 billion. And maybe something that you said or something that another person said activates a desire within us. At what point does desire become greed? And at what point does desire become activation?
Sure. So in this instance, the recognition of the desire is actually the higher self giving you a glimpse of something already a part of your blueprint, your soul map, something meant to unfold. So the desire is just showing you the direction that you should go because it's already built into the plan and the themes that from your highest self you have written into the script, into the story. Now we do have ego-based desire and we have soul-based desire, right? A soul-based desire is, I'll explain it this way. A soul-based desire to create $1 billion feels like, wouldn't it be so beautiful to have that much energetic currency in the form of a tangible tool that I can use and spread love and light around the planet and work on projects and create infrastructures and spread love and light. Ego-based would be, I need to get to $1 billion because I need to prove myself. I need to show the world that I'm this type of person and this and that. And so what happens with that is as you're working towards that from the ego, you will also be a vibrational match to obstacles, challenges, and contrasts because the higher self is really always running the show. Whether you're coming from the heart, the soul, or the ego, higher self is going to say, okay, I know you think you're going to get to this $1 billion, but guess what? On the way there, you're going to experience this and this and this, and then this heartbreak and this. So it's a polarity to what I described as I can have the time of my life on the way there. That's heart, that's soul. That's a desire that's truly coming from benevolence. As opposed to lower density.
Yeah. How do we raise the energetic standard of what is possible in our life?
By knowing, not even believing, knowing that the creator, source, wants you to have what you have chosen as the highest vision for your life. You see, the energetic standard is that I can have what I desire to have as long as it's in the highest good for myself, for others, and for all of existence. If it's in harmonic alignment in that way, source, it is the most natural thing for source to give this to you. In fact, it is source's deepest desire and joy to give this to you. Because it's giving it to itself. And as it's giving it to itself and you're having that highest expansion and experience, all of creation stores that as an eternal memory of love. When you get what you want, it is inscribed into the memory of creation as love. A particular dimension of love that has now been experienced and accessed and explored. So you raise your energetic standard because there's no reason why you should not have what you want.
What happens if sometimes what we want would put others in harm?
So this definitely assumes some spiritual integrity. And either way, the universe is not going to allow it. The universe is not going to allow you to. So we would say this is the built-in karma, which is really just a technology that says whatever you emit, you also attract, and it circles back around to you. So if you go around harming other people, you can surely believe that you will experience harm, or you will experience the lower vibrational aspects of what creation is. It's already built into the design, I'm hearing.
Is that karma, what we would know of as karma?
Yes. It's simply the energy. So what karma, how Source is wanting to explain karma, is that your soul desires balance. If you do something, or something that you have said, done, impacted, influenced, sends out a ripple that impacts creation in a certain frequency, your soul goes, okay, now I have to experience what it feels like to be on the receiving end of that. So oftentimes when we talk about karma, we only think about the negative karma, but there's tons of positive karma that we're experiencing as well. And I personally like to call this your karmic credit. Your karmic credit, where you do so much good and you give so much love. And as life is throwing you energetic darts and things are happening, you just hold your vibration and it just shifts you into mastery. There is an eventual tipping point and payoff where you get your karmic credit.
It's like the universe's design of what we've created as a currency.
Exactly. And before you said the word currency, I was hearing it's your universal bank that is collecting or storing your personal currency that is paid out to you at different points.
Ooh.
Paid out to you, or the balance can be reduced. We can look at it that way if we're talking about the negative polarity of karma.
Are there specific points in our life where some of those payouts tend to occur more frequently?
Beautiful question. When you have chosen to evolve through embodiment. So in the beginning, we said we're usually being presented with two choices, which is evolve or repeat. When you evolve, let's give a practical example of this. Let's say someone has a boss that really speaks down to them, and someone's feeling really intimidated or inferior, and they're not using their voice because they're afraid to lose their job, which is what they're operating in lack, right? If I lose this, what will I have? And thus they don't shift. So they collapse into the loop of continuing to experience this outward illusion of oppression and inferiority. Even if they get a new job, similar dynamics will show up, or in other types of relationship, the same dynamic will show up until they choose to evolve and embody the archetype that says, I do not choose to be treated like this because I don't have to, because there are infinite other options that are more harmonious. So now they're operating on the abundance blueprint, and thus they get a massive payout.
So embodiment plays a huge role in how those karmic credits add up in our life.
Absolutely. When I've experienced a major karmic credit payout, it's because I was so steadfast in a frequency, in a vibration of truth. No matter what illusions were playing out, no matter what fear I could have entertained, choosing abundance, choosing abundance, choosing abundance, choosing abundance, which is choosing to believe in source over anything. Holding that for so long, right? It's an accumulation. And then the universe goes, well done. You have mastered that theme within this earth matrix, but now you also get the payout from all of the work you have done. I'm writing a book right now with Source, and it's called Radical Receiving. We're teaching people how to become a master at receiving from the universe. One of the chapters is, we're calling it the tipping point. And the tipping point is when you finally anchor into this version of you that just keeps receiving better and more. So you kind of make peace and you part ways with the old timelines of chaos and drama and all of that. It doesn't mean things won't show up, but it's just a higher dimensional version of challenges and lessons. And the karmic credit is associated with the tipping point.
I'm going to paraphrase something that you said that is something along the lines of, you don't tune in or tap into a frequency. You are the frequency itself. So if we can perceive ourselves as a conglomeration of frequencies, and whatever we, are emitting as that frequency, that's what we draw, and that's what we see more of in the environment. Although there's times when it's like the universe will test us, like you said, where
Mm-hmm.
we want to tune into a specific station or become that frequency, but our whole environment is telling us that's not what you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
how do you bridge that when the environment is in a way not proving to you what the frequency that you want to tune into should
Yes.
look like?
Remember when we said that the true nature of abundance is that it is not based on a specific person, thing, item, place, object, etc. Meaning it's unconditional. When we look at this word unconditional, it's that a specific condition is not required for me to embody a state of abundance or a state of love, whatever state it is. Choosing to embody a state because you can and because you hold that as supreme truth means the condition of the outward reality doesn't matter. It no longer matters to you. And when it no longer matters to you, that is when you attune yourself truly to that station where you will permanently experience abundance. The tipping point, again, it's when you are not on the roller coaster. You have gotten off of the roller coaster because no matter what's showing up, the way you will be relating to it has changed. This is a mirror. I want to just give an example of how people can work through this. This is a mirror. I just lost my job. What is this teaching me? What is this showing me? What do I truly believe in this moment? Can Source not align me with something else as soon as tomorrow that is probably more compatible with the frequency that I have expanded into? This person just broke up with me. I'm heartbroken. Yes, I will allow myself to grieve and feel deep emotions of sorrow. However, can the universe not see who's exactly a frequency match to me and has been waiting for me to get ready for them? Entertaining abundance means the illusion of lack that you're being presented with no longer dominates your focus.
You said compatibility, and
Yeah.
sometimes we might think that we're compatible to a certain person, place, or thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it turns out to be completely the opposite. So how do we energetically read true compatibility for where we are in the moment that we're, trying to figure that out?
Let's say at the point in time you met this person, you were truly compatible based on the frequency that you were, and you wouldn't have met them if you were not compatible. But from that second that you met, both of you were already expanding, shifting, changing, becoming someone new, because this is just what we do every millisecond. And then a frequency gap began to form if one of you were not keeping up with each other, and then you experience the incompatibility. So we're always going to be shifting. It's a matter of honoring truth. So what many do is, once the meeting point, the convergence, the contract has served its purpose, many people don't know how to accept that expansion has occurred in a way where that type of compatibility is no longer needed, necessary, or required. And then it creates a timeline loop.
What are some ways that you handle rapid change in your life?
Yes, staying grounded. Staying grounded through breath work and meditation, because that allows the body to adjust to the new timeline. Definitely through food and diet, eating light, but also sometimes eating more grounding foods if the body is asking of that. Being in nature, going for a hike, because that just anchors you into the new timeline.
And when we're moving through moments of a big change, it's usually coming from like this spontaneous, inspired action that you've also talked about. And I'm really curious to go, look behind the scenes of what is causing these inspired actions. Sometimes, I talk to people and they're like, no, I'm moving here because I just feel called to, and I don't know why, like what's pulling me there, or I just want to pursue this person and I don't know why. Like, it's the action that breaks logic and is coming from something deeper within us that I'm curious to understand and unpack where that is coming from.
It's exactly what you said. There's a truth that goes beyond logic, because timelines are shifting so fast and the mind operates on what is already experienced. So it's trying to find data that supports this action, this decision, this transformation, but it just can't. So there may even be some resistance or a need to analyze and make sense of it. But when we are just moving with that current of inspired action where our soul is just bypassing the mind, it collapses time because we don't allow the mind to create unnecessary steps in between. So it's interesting, as humans, as fascinated as we are with quantum leaping, when we're presented with one, what does the mind do? I need to make sense of this. Nope, this is not logical. What's the next step? I need to plan. How does this fit into my little idea of what I thought my life was going to be? This doesn't make sense. I wasn't planning on doing this. So you're being presented with the quantum leap. It's going to happen through the heart. That feeling of, I don't know, and I don't know how, and I don't know why, but I'm surrendering. It happens through surrendering through the heart. I surrender to the love of all that is, and I entrust that this next step is leading me beyond what I can fathom. Now, here's an interesting thing Source is bringing in, which is relate to this through neutrality. Because when we collapse into this is bad or this is wrong, or if I make this decision, it can deter me. How about if I make this decision, Source is only going to reroute me back on the right path. If, let's say, this is a mini detour. And if it is a mini detour, technically it's not, because I'm probably going to meet someone or something's going to happen that's a piece of what I need. So in this way, you never split your energy. You never compartmentalize yourself into dualistic thinking, good or bad, wrong or right. What if either way, this is going to serve me? Now you're in full harmony with what how the universe can support you.
So there's really no path that takes us off our path in a way, or
Correct.
Our destiny.
Correct. Huh. It's like a GPS.
What do you mean by that?
Like when a GPS, if you make a wrong turn and it just reroutes, it recalculates based on the new coordinates and just says you need to make this turn, do this, do that to get back on track. That's how the universal mind works as a GPS system.
Can someone completely change their destiny?
There's a thing called quantum leaping out of soul contracts. And this was actually one of the way that the Stargate technology that I worked with, how it worked for me. So when I was working with this Stargate technology, essentially one of the things that happened was there was a relationship that I needed to leave. However, up until that point, a few things were meant to happen. I was supposed to apparently be married and divorced before meeting my now husband. But instead, because I embodied a certain quality or certain attributes sooner than maybe even from a soul level I knew I could embody, but thus through doing so and choosing to make certain decisions, it quantum leaped me out of the need to have those experiences. And Source just said, you didn't need to experience those anymore. So sometimes with soul contracts, we can be overly confident, meaning we can write some things into the story that in real time we're going to struggle with more and it takes longer, or we can actually bypass our own expectations of something that we're presented with and thus shift faster and shift our destiny.
Yeah. I believe also our higher self leaves little clues for us, sometimes in the form of
Yes.
metaphors, symbols. You know, for you, it's very funny because when I read your last name, you know, it's pronounced Lyons. And
Yeah.
you talked about your connection and your husband's connection with Lyra, the constellation. So do you feel like that was your higher self kind of playing with you and leaving
Oh,
clues to remember who you
1000%.
are?
Yes. So I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Our football team, we're the Detroit Lions. My last name is obviously Lyons. I was always fascinated and just loved The Lion King, and I named my cat Simba even before I realized this Lyran connection. Um, Clues like that. So in the moment that it integrated, I go, of course. I could just see the clues. I could see the hints. So even when I'm working with clients, I like to look at their name, their last name, even astrology and our birth charts can have and hold certain clues about our multidimensional self. Anything can be a clue.
For someone that also feels a connection to Lyra, I'll include myself in that. What is something that you have remembered from that time and space that could activate maybe someone's understanding of why they feel connected to there?
Sure. So I have two really strong connections. A connection to Lyra and then a connection to the Arcturian Council. In Lyra, we were at this time fifth dimensional, maybe sixth dimensional heart-based beings. With being heart-based, there was a lack of heart-mind coherence. And many of us, after some of the wars and the things that happened in Lyra, we went to Arcturus because the Arcturians had really mastered heart-mind coherence. That was one of the technologies that began to reveal itself as I worked with these two aspects of myself, and even shadow themes in my life that showed up where I didn't want to look at someone's, let's just say, darkness. I would only want to see the light. But that was something coming from how in Lyra we ended up opening ourselves up to certain energies, based on being naive, based on being a lack of spiritual mastery or maturity comes through on that topic. And so I went to Arcturus, and so I love Arcturians so much because I learned so much there, spent a ton of time there, and they are really masterful with understanding the full spectrum of frequency, ranging from lower vibrational to higher vibrational. You can't ignore one or the other. And so they're very complete in their embodiment. And I think that can help a lot of folks who feel connection to Lyra.
For sure, because even, you know, you brought up heart-mind coherence, and that's something that, you know, a lot of other spiritual teachers now are talking about. Where is humanity in that scale of becoming coherent in their heart and in their mind?
Well, right now we're working through healing the wounded feminine and masculine. As we heal the wounded feminine and masculine, that creates the heart-mind coherence. So the heart, the feminine, leads, the mind, the masculine, follows and supports the structure, the building of the structure. And because on both sides, there have been deep wounds of rejection, of shame, distortions of power, we are addressing those cycles and those timelines now so that each individual becomes fully mastered in both energies, and thus being the ascended master we spoke about at the beginning, which is the balance of the heart and mind. And both are needed, by the way. Source wants to say that because there have been historical periods across history where there was the feminine principle leading, believing that the masculine was not needed. There was, and we're actually experiencing some of the karma from that, from the distorted matriarchy. And then there have been times where the patriarchy or the masculine has led while disempowering the feminine. So these cycles and these themes have needed to play out for us to reach this point of going, wait, we are both, we have both energies, and both are a part of Source's full embodiment, the yin and the yang.
What is that karma that is playing out from the distorted matriarchy?
The wounded masculine tantrum that's been happening over the last 3,000 years, let's say. There were distorted timelines of the matriarchy, misusing power, misusing sexual energy, using men for labor and just to essentially become pregnant, and really almost disregarding them. And then those men fell into jealousy and competition and began creating certain themes to overpower the feminine. That is the most recent cycle that we have been in, that it's swinging, the pendulum is swinging back into the middle. So we swung that way, distorted feminine. So then we swung distorted masculine. And now we're reaching another tipping point.
We got tired of extremes.
Exactly. And now that we are done with those cycles, right? The game of being a human on Earth is just expanding. We spoke about background characters. New characters come in. That would be the ETs. That would be different galactic groups and different technologies and different ways that we're going to be using telepathy and gifts. And so the game is expanding because now that we're out of karmic cycles, or we're approaching the time where we will be out of karmic cycles, we can have a little bit more fun.
Mm-hmm. I'll ask you a fun question.
Okay.
If you were a character in a movie, what would the plot of that movie be?
Okay. I know this is going to sound maybe not interesting or cliche, but I really do like this character of Erin. I really do. I'll put it this way. I really like the way me and my higher self architected this one at this particular moment in time. I think I chose the perfect avatar. I think I chose the perfect timing of things. I mean, really, I do love it. I think it's great.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I feel very much the same. And, you know, that brings me to the lesson that you teach of total self-acceptance is the most magnetic energy. And I've noticed points in my life where I've accepted myself the most and for who I am. And that's when things start moving and shifting in my external environment. You know, maybe it's this platform that grows, or maybe it's the people I'm bringing in. It's like, or the opportunities as well.
Yes.
When I learn to accept myself. So how would you begin to hone that in for people of the correlation there?
The way you feel about yourself is what other people are picking up on. This is why when people are really confident, embodied, we naturally gravitate towards them, or we just even want to give them things, or these types of people are always attracting gifts or opportunities or luck, because it's a vibration that says, I have fully accepted who I am. So I'm not performing, I'm not shape-shifting, I'm not bending to be liked, because when we're shifting ourselves, trying to mold ourselves to be liked, to receive validation, it actually just attracts people who can't fully see us. They can only see fractals of us because we haven't fully seen ourselves. So I would simply say, people feel about you the way you feel about you, and the way other people feel about you is just a mirror to the relationship you have established with yourself. If you think you're great, most people will join in on that belief. If you think you suck and you're a failure, people will pick up on that and you'll repel them.
Is your mic okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
You've just been dropping mic drops after mic drops after mic drops.
Oh, was that a joke?
I'm joking with you.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, is technology okay?
Did we
So
lose
funny.
the whole recording? No, I'm serious. Like, wow. This conversation, I think, has acted like a digital Stargate for me. And, you know, I can even tell that the other people are feeling the same, because those Stargates that we talked about in the beginning, what I kind of understood from that technology is that they recalibrate your mind and your emotions so you make different decisions. And by the information that you're, you know, giving out to us today, that's like, you know, a start to someone to recalibrate and think differently. So that's been really powerful.
It's so synchronistic because yesterday in my Instagram stories, follow me, Erin Lyons Official, I literally posted the Stargate technology, or the consciousness of the Stargate, is already working in your field for people who are coming with me to Mount Shasta. And that same consciousness is here now, recalibrating your audience, your listeners.
I definitely feel recalibrated. I had an interesting question, you know, for Source, in the sense of, from Source's perspective, when someone says a full-bodied yes to their purpose, how does Source perceive that?
You become a co-creator with Source directly. No middleman, no need to serve the matrix. This is where the term "you can't serve two masters" come from. So the full body yes is the devotion to all that is, to the highest truth, to the absolute truth. And then you and Source are doing everything together. So before I do anything, I connect with Source, I speak with Source. And by the way, anybody can do this, whether you consider yourself a channeler or not a channeler or this and that. You do this through prayer. And prayer is just speaking to Source, preferably out loud. You speak to Source, you commune with Source, you communicate. And that begins to formulate the relationship. And then you begin to dedicate yourself to the Most High, not in a praise, worship, distorted religious context, but in a, we are co-creating, because Source is your own highest self that operates on pure, just supreme love. So that is what you should be using as your North Star, so to speak, within any situation. Source, what do you think about this? Source, what's the intention of this? Source, how should I say this? Source, what is the message that needs to come through today that can really recalibrate people to the frequency of love? Source, it could be anything. Source, I want a new gym. Lead me in the direction of the gym that's in harmony with me, and maybe there are even some friends I'll meet in this new place. I mean, the most ridiculous small thing, I'm telling you, if you start including Source, this will become an indestructible relationship.
How do we know when we're operating from that purpose and in co-creation with Source?
When you don't look to anyone else or other people for validation, it becomes merely a matter of, this is between me and Source, and you leave everyone else out of it. That is the declaration and the devotion to a purpose beyond what anyone else will understand. There's a reason why many masters teach, I'm getting the example of Yeshua, Jesus, who, after he performed miracles, and he said, go forth and tell no one, because people can introduce doubt based on their own belief in lack, because they have not experienced, let's just call it, the truth in some way, shape, or form. And so leaving everyone else out of it allows you to be the receiver, the radical receiver of infinite blessings and miracles that bypass logic or reason.
Hmm. And what are you, Erin, most devoted to right now in this moment of your life?
The unconditional love, joy, situation comedy, the banter, the amazing people I attract, just the fun of my life. I am infinitely devoted to helping as many beings as I can on this planet experience that version of reality. That is what drives me every day. That is what allows me to keep going. That is just what energizes me truly.
Let's do it. I'm with you.
Yes. We're doing it.
Erin, we're doing it. We're doing it. Everyone here is doing it. And we end every show with a segment called The Final Trio, like we did the first time around. Before that, for someone that is just running into you, maybe for the first time, where would you send them to connect with you, with your work, with all the beautiful co-creations that you're putting out to the world right now?
You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Erin Lyons TV. That's where we're starting to put out daily channeled messages. And you can just visit my website, www.erinlyonsofficial.com.
Beautiful. We'll include everything down in the show
Thank
notes. You. And we'll actually do it. And these questions, they're all three of them are personalized to each guest. So, we don't have repeat of the final trios. Each question is individual. The first one that I have for you is, what's one spiritual truth that you live by now that you would have thought was crazy 10 years ago?
Okay. 10 years ago, it was my senior year in college, 2016, we'll say. This is so good. It's so on brand, like tapping into that version of me. Just spend the money.
Spend the money?
Spend the money. So to give you context, it's at this time, I was still recalibrating my wealth consciousness, learning about that. And when you're in scarcity and you're like holding on to the money. And as I've expanded to hold more wealth, I understand it's a reciprocity. You can release and receive it simultaneously. And so I like to play around and expand into how much more can I release at once? Can I release $100,000 in one day and then really trust that I can receive that however other way? So yeah, to that version of me, just spend the money.
Well, let's say right now we take out $100K from the bank. Where would you channel that money to?
I would put it towards a retreat center, which is something I'm actually doing right now. Just building out a space that I want to be able to utilize.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. I'll be the first one there. I want to. Where would you want that retreat center to be?
It's going to be here in San Diego.
Love that.
It's going to be here in San Diego. Yes.
Yeah. I would put it into building a in-person studio so I can connect with all your beautiful faces in person, because the digital is cutting short, the energy, I just, there's something about being in person, and, we're actually starting some initiatives as a team to do that. So I'm excited and excited about your retreat center. The second question I have for you is, when was the last time your guides surprised you?
So this was a little bit ago. At this point, it's really difficult to surprise me. I'll put it that way. 3 a.m. in the morning, I wake up and my husband, his hand is up like this and it's moving. He's doing some activations with his hands. And I'm looking at him to make sure he's sleeping. He's not just like pranking me or something like that. And I'm like, no, he's really asleep. And then his hand stops and they turn it towards me. And then I wake him up. I go, no, not right now. I'm like, I got a 3-month-old. I'm not in the mood to talk to any councils tonight. But that waking up out
Let
of
me
my
sleep.
And he's like, oh my God, I was on a spaceship. And I'm like, I know. I think they were getting ready to talk through you. And I just was not in the mood.
Not right now, guys. Not right now. Take a seat.
No. We're going to shut this down right now.
Well, that speaks into boundaries with these interdimensional realms, right? You know, some people are just like, I'm open, and then it's like a whole portal. And whenever, you know, you could be eating dinner with your family, and all of a sudden, if you don't have those boundaries,
absolutely,
shit can hit the fan pretty quick.
Yeah, that was pretty surprising.
What's something about the future of humanity that you feel as truth in your body, but most people aren't ready to hear yet?
Teleportation. That's just what I saw and what I feel. Sooner than we think. We're not saying in 10 years, but maybe 30, maybe 20, right? It depends on how we shift, how we integrate, how the left and right brain begins syncing once more in the way that it was originally designed. But bilocation and trilocation will become more mainstream. More people will begin experiencing that.
Why would we want that?
It forms as a sort of bridging of timelines. If I'm here and I'm in a parallel past timeline simultaneously, and I can see something that we did, I can get information and I can anchor it now. And so you see every now shifts the past and the future simultaneously. And this is how higher dimensional beings use that technology.
To be continued. Erin, thank you so much for coming back on. It's so beautiful to see a representation of a younger person as well doing this type of work. And I honor you for having the courage to speak your truth and share all your infinite wisdom with you. I can't wait to do this again.
Thank you. One last thing here. I feel more so my Arcturian higher self. She says, "Thank you, Master Emilio." And you just let that land where it needs to.
The sensei.
Thank you, Master Emilio. That's what she says.
Thank you. Well, till next time.
Yes.